Hey everybody, I'm back. Sorry about that. Yes, the battery on my laptop did die, and I was in the middle of reading, or I think I just finished reading number 10 on 21 tips to stop being a people pleaser from psychcentral.com. Link is in the description box. And just recapping, number 10 was don't give a litany of excuses. This is very important because, as she states, that when you start explaining, over explaining, and a lot of people pleasers fall into this trap, you feel guilty saying no, and so you feel like you have to present a valid explanation to the other person as to why you're having to say no. And of course, as a people pleaser, this will only be in a situation where you're absolutely forced. You have to say no because you're so afraid to say no otherwise. And then you over-explain yourself. And then if you're dealing with a particularly manipulative person, as she says in the article, it actually backfires on you. When you present your explanation, they say, oh, well, you can just do that later. Or can't you reschedule that? You got to remember, there's a lot of ballsy people out there who they will ask you to rearrange your life to suit them and suit their needs. And if you are stuck in that mental loop of people pleasing, you will actually rearrange your own life and your own family, even to the extent where some people pleasers even end up overextending members of their family, pushing their own spouse and children to the side, all because of this intense anxiety with telling someone no. And it's such a shame because oftentimes the person they're so afraid to say no to is someone who is completely insignificant in their lives in the grand scheme of things. So what if some other mom from the school where your kids go decides to get her panties up in a bunch because you said, no, I can't help volunteer with whatever extracurricular activity she wants you to help volunteer with. Sometimes it is a case where the person's being manipulative and they want all the glory and they want to be large and in charge and they want to get all the credit, but they don't want to have to do all the work. So then they find people pleasers to sucker into delegating the work to. I'm not saying that every head of every organization is a narcissist or a manipulator, but oftentimes people pleasers attract that type of personality, and that's how they'll get continuously suckered into overextending themselves when they really don't want to. Even in some situations where the kid's no longer even involved in the activity or with that school, and the parent still gets suckered into volunteering to help out with certain events at that organization. So don't waste your breath over explaining yourself. You don't owe anyone an explanation. If you just don't want to do something, you don't have to be busy. You don't have to give them some excuse. Just say, no, I'm not going to be able to do that. And leave it at that. It's none of their business why you're saying no. Maybe you just don't like the person who's in charge of whatever activity you're being asked to help with. If you don't feel comfortable around that person, just say no. No, I'm sorry, I can't. Sorry. And leave it at that. And then walk away. And don't let them guilt you into saying yes. Okay, so continuing on with the list, we're at number 11. Start small. Everything we learn how to do, we learn through a process. So take baby steps, Tillman said. Instead of barging into your boss's office to ask for a raise, talk with your immediate supervisor first about how to prepare yourself for the talk. Number 12. Practice successive approximation. Successive approximation means taking one step in the direction you want to go and rewarding yourself for getting that far. Tillman said, if your neighbor's dog's barking is driving you crazy, Make efforts to confront the person by first saying good morning as you're both leaving the house. Another time, you might mention how noisy the neighborhood has been. If he doesn't get the hint, you can knock on his door and use an empathetic assertion. It can help to write down how you get from A to Z. It can help you if you write it down, how to get from A to Z. Tillman said, this also helps you gain courage to confront the person, she added. Number 13, don't apologize if it's not your fault. People pleasers tend to be serial apologists, Tillman said. Pay attention to when you're apologizing and consider if you're really at fault. Ask yourself if you're responsible for the situation, she said. Usually the answer is no. I want to just interject something while I'm thinking about it on this one. A good friend of mine who is an extreme people pleaser has intense anxiety about anyone not liking her or being angry with her. She still struggles with it a lot, although she has improved somewhat as we've aged, but she still struggles with it a lot, as we all do. I still struggle with people pleasing, but I would say she's pretty extreme on the people pleasing spectrum, and it was to a point when we were younger, and she'll still do it a little bit now, but when we were younger, she was so neurotically anxiety ridden that I was mad at her, or that anybody was mad at her. She would constantly ask me, even if I was perfectly happy, we were hanging out together, laughing and talking with other people, she would just all of a sudden have to ask me. It was almost like a tick, like she had to do it. Are you mad at me? Are you mad? And I would get paranoid. Like, I would be like, am I doing something that's making you think I'm mad? Like, am I giving off some kind of vibe, or am I making some kind of facial expression that's off-putting or something, And then we both get like paranoid. So it can get to a point where like you're apologizing when you didn't even do anything wrong. Or I've come across people pleasers also who like they'll apologize when something goes wrong and like they weren't even there when it happened. And and then they'll like take responsibility for things that they had nothing to do with. You gotta really think about that and kind of let yourself off the hook. At some point you got to. You can't control everything, and it can be a lot of part of the core of people pleasing is it's control issues. Like, you're trying to control other people's opinions of you, and you think you're going to be able to do that by modifying your behavior in such a way to make everybody happy, but it's impossible to make everybody happy. It's never going to happen. So it's way healthier to focus on your intuition and on your own cores and values, and correlate your activities and the things that you do and the way that you conduct yourself to meet with what your intuition is telling you and what your core values and beliefs are. And like I said before, then the rest will follow. Then you don't have to overexert yourself trying to figure it out. What is it that's going to make this person happy, and this person happy, and this person happy, and then I've got to execute all of these different plans, XYZ, to make all these different people happy. Stop trying to figure out what everybody else wants. Okay? You want to put energy into figuring out what other people need. Concentrate that on your own family. If you have children, concentrate that on your children. But don't ignore yourself in the process. Even when it comes to caring for your family, don't ignore yourself. Just like they say on an airplane, if there's an emergency, put your own oxygen mask on first. before you start helping members of your family and helping your child. Put your own mask on first, because if you get oxygen deprived and end up passing out, then you're no good for anybody. Then you're not helping anybody. You didn't even help yourself. So you got to help yourself first before you can tend to other people. And then when you move on to helping other people, make sure you choose very selectively who you're giving that help to. Number 14, remember that saying no does have its benefits. As Newman said, you as a person are entitled to your time, and you need to rest and rejuvenate to be there for the people you want to help out. Look at saying no as an opportunity to spend your time doing what you value in your life. This is important also too, because like a lot of us who have spent our lives being people pleasers, you wake up one day and you realize you don't even know who you are. You may have an idea, but you don't really totally have the whole picture. And it's because we've spent so much time making everyone else around us happy, we didn't take the time to develop our own interests and talents. And I mean, you hear stories all the time about people who just completely let themselves go and forgot about their own, developing their own inner self, and sometimes ended up finding out that they are like hugely talented and had all this talent and knowledge and things that could have really helped other people, that if they would have taken more time to develop themselves, that they could have helped even more people than what they ever would have thought possible. So that's another reason why it's really important to take the time on yourself to develop yourself. Because if your aim really is to help other people, that's how you go about doing that. You're not going to be able to help other people if you don't know who the hell you are. Number 15, a very important one, set clear boundaries and follow through. We all have physical or emotional limits, Newman said, and because of these limits, we have to set boundaries. Ask yourself what you're willing to do, and don't go beyond these limits. Also, be clear in communicating your boundaries. Say what you're thinking and what you want. Letting someone step over your boundaries without voicing your frustrations can lead you to bottle up this negative feeling about the person, to the point when you have a blow up and really hurt someone's feelings or end the relationship completely. For instance, you might have a friend who's just so emotionally needy and negative that she calls you all the time with her problems and wants you to listen. Newman said, but even just listening is asking a favor, and if every time you hang out you're miserable and she feels better, you should respect your boundaries and at some point say to her, I can't help you. There also are subtle ways to respect your boundaries. You might start taking every other call and wean yourself off of that friend. You can do the same thing with a person who calls you at your busiest time of day. You might say, I can't be available for you at 2:30 because I'm at the office. Let's set up a particular time to talk, she said. When setting up the time, offer one that works best for you. Setting physical boundaries might mean telling a person that they can't just pop over when they want to or borrow your things without asking. Number 16, don't be scared of the fallout. People pleasers often worry that after they say no, the fallout will be catastrophic. This is the number one thing that drives the people pleaser, is fear of the aftermath of saying no. The fallout is never as bad as we think it is. In fact, it's usually very insignificant. Why? For starters, people are not thinking about you as much as you think. Usually after you say no, a person is more focused on who they'll be asking next to help them than your so-called betrayal, she said. Even a significant request such as being the maid of honor at your friend's wedding isn't disastrous. Being the maid of honor takes a lot of time, energy, and money. which you may not have. You saying that I'm really honored and this means so much to me, but I won't be able to do it, isn't going to ruin the wedding. If you have a solid friendship, this isn't going to end it. If you have a solid friendship, your friend's going to understand. Like, if you're in the middle of trying to get a master's degree or something, and you're, studying hard, and you're really busy with your studies, and you're also limited in how much you can work, and so maybe you're not earning as much, and that's not being selfish. That's actually taking your friend into consideration, because if you know you're not going to have the time and the money to devote to completing the task of being the maid of honor for someone's wedding, you're actually being considerate of your friend by saying, I can't handle this right now. So it would be better to give that honor to someone else who can devote the time that you deserve from your maid of honor. That makes total sense. But again, being a people pleaser is it's very neurotic. It's being pathologically anxiety ridden over other people not liking you, or other people being angry because you didn't grant their every request. It's just and that's why it's not healthy. Number 17, consider who you want to have your time. Newman suggested asking yourself, who do I really want to help? As she put it, do you want to be there for your parents or some friend from college who lived down the hall, who you partied with a lot, who's back in your life and is really demanding? Makes perfect sense. Number 18, self-soothe. Using positive self-talk is like being a good mother to yourself. You can use this to remind yourself of your priorities and your boundaries. For instance, you might say, I can't do this. Or, I have the right to park in this parking spot. Or, I made the decision that's right for me. Or, my values are more important than saying yes in this situation. Number 19. Recognize when you're being successful, when you've been successful. Many people pleasers tend to focus on what went wrong, Tillman said. Counteract this tendency by keeping a journal with the times you handled a situation well, such as when you were assertive or didn't apologize. In fact, you might be surprised at how many more times you're responding confidently. I have an example about that too, after I finish the article. Number 20, keep a confidence file. Since a lack of confidence can cause your people-pleasing ways, keep a file with positive and praising emails, cards, or anything else, Tillman said. For instance, Psych Central Associate Editor Therese Borchard keeps a self-esteem file. It can even come in handy when asking for that raise. Tillman suggested printing out any emails or letters of praise you've received from coworkers or higher-ups and taking them to your boss as another reason why you deserve a raise. And the last tip on how to stop being a people pleaser is realize that you can't be everything to everyone. Again, people pleasers want to make everyone happy. While you might make someone happy temporarily, Newman said, it doesn't work long term, and you can get hurt in the process. People who preserve their time and energy and don't say yes to everyone else realize that they can't make other people happy, she said. People pleasers must realize that the only thoughts and feelings they can change are their own. So I thought both of those articles were really great at touching on the main points, the core of what drives the people pleaser, and how to kind of counteract that and change your ways. Because it's not, you're not going to just decide one day I'm going to wake up tomorrow and stop being a people pleaser. It's not going to happen overnight. Just like anything else, it takes practice. And it takes, a little bit at a time. and then you gradually get more and more confident with it, and then it just becomes second nature to you. One example I wanted to give, and it's actually kind of a funny story. So I mentioned in previous videos that I just moved into a new house in a new neighborhood, and couldn't be happier. Love the house and the neighborhood, and just met the neighbor that lives 2 doors down last weekend. So what was going on was I have a magnolia tree in my front yard, and those of you who are not familiar with magnolia trees, they drop leaves almost year round, and they are thick leaves with a waxy coating. They do not break down easily, and they can pile up, especially during the time of year when it's not quite hot enough that the grass isn't growing really fast and you don't need to cut the grass every week. When it is hotter and I'm mowing the lawn more regularly, that the lawnmower will take care of leaves. But when I'm not cutting the grass every week, they can, start to pile up a little bit, and it'll start getting a little messy. So last weekend I noticed, it had been 2 weeks since I had cut the grass, and it wasn't that bad, because I've seen other houses. I mean, there's lots of magnolia trees in this neighborhood, and I've seen other houses where the leaves are piled up on the lawn like a blanket, covering, like you can't even see the grass. So I wasn't even near that bad. My tree isn't as dense, fine, as some of the other ones are that I've seen in the area. So it wasn't even that bad. But they were starting, it was a little windy last Sunday, and I was starting to pick up, they were starting to blow onto my driveway and make it look messy. And also, and being a considerate neighbor, I also considered, it's windy today and it's going to start blowing it on to the next door neighbor's lawns. So I went outside with a garbage bag, and I went out there and I'm picking up the leaves. And so I end up, picking up almost all of them, off my driveway and off my lawn and everything. And so that way the wind had been kind of picking up, and so that way there was less of a chance that they would be blowing all over. And so the neighbor 2 doors down, she ends up pulling into her driveway while I was outside, and she had a boyfriend with her. Only I didn't know. I thought they were married. I thought they both lived there. And so they pull into the driveway. She says hello, introduces herself, and he says hello, and if you need anything, just knock. And so that's one of the reasons I was thinking they were married, and he lived there also. And so they were just stopping in to pick something up, and then they were back on their way out. So when they were back on their way out, they stopped in front of my house, and I'm standing there next to my large garbage bag full of magnolia leaves, and they're chit-chatting, and welcome to the neighborhood, how you like it so far, and just making small talk. And then the guy says, and it really took me by surprise, your neighbors would like you more if you get rid of that magnolia tree. And he didn't say it like in a snarky tone or a rude tone. He said it like with a smile on his face, very calmly. I handled it well. Y'all would be proud of me. I turned and I looked at the tree, and then I turned and I looked back at him, and I put my hand on my hip, and I kind of cocked my head to the side, and I put a big smile on my face, and I said, "Oh, is that right?" And I don't think he was expecting that response. And he started explaining, well, when the south wind blows, it blows them down the street, and they don't break down, they don't compost, and he's just going on and on about how much the leaves drop and blah blah blah. And I just stood there with the smile on my face, just letting him go, and I didn't say a word. And I'm sure his lady friend was mortified, And because as it turns out, she is the neighbor. So his statement was actually kind of implying either that she doesn't like me because I have a magnolia tree and I'm not obsessively out there every day picking up every leaf that falls off the tree, or he's trying to make me uncomfortable by implying that people on our block have been talking about me, that I'm somehow messy and not keeping up my yard. So, you know, the me from years ago would have obsessively started worrying, oh my God, the neighbors think I'm weird, they think I'm bad, they think I'm a slob, I'm not taking care of my property, oh my God, everybody hates me. And then I would have obsessively tried to squeeze in to my already packed schedule, going outside to pick up every leaf that falls off the tree all the time. The me of today really doesn't care what that guy thinks about my magnolia tree because I like it and it shades the front of my house and I'm all out of money and I don't have the money to have it removed. So I'm going to do my part like a responsible neighbor who's not a slob, and I'm not going to let the leaves pile up like a blanket on my lawn, but I'm not going to obsess about it, and I'm not going to worry about what that guy thinks about me or my magnolia tree. Yeah, it was pretty funny. And then he ended the conversation with, but hey, if you need anything you need, just come knock. I'm there all the time. And then here's the funny part. I'm there all the time, he says, and then he says, well, I don't live there, she does, but I'm there all the time. So that just, I had to laugh because not only he doesn't live there, and it's not his home. So he doesn't even live on this block, but he's going to tell me what I should do with my magnolia tree. Crazy, huh? I mean, the balls on this guy. Just unbelievable. And after they drove off, I turned my head in the direction of his girlfriend's house, and I noticed that the next door neighbor right next door to them has a magnolia tree on their front lawn. But he's going to tell me about my magnolia tree, and I'm 2 doors down. And I can guarantee you that most of the leaves that fall off of my tree end up on my lawn and stay on my lawn. I know, because I picked them up. So, thanks again for listening, and everybody have a good week.